The San Jose Sharks had the first overall selection in the 2024 NHL Draft, so it would be kind of hard to screw up the draft class, especially this season, but let's get into what they did. So the San Jose Sharks won the NHL Draft lottery after a horrendous regular season in the NHL and got Macklin Celebrini, the crown jewel of the whole shebang. And this pick just makes so much sense on so many levels. His dad works in the area, it seems like he's a Sharks fan. This just seemed to be destiny, and this kind of thing seems to rarely happen in the NHL, and I'm always happy when it does. But the biggest question is, what are they getting in Macklin Celebrini? And I think this is a foundational player for their next generation of players. They do have a lot of skill in their prospect pool, but not a whole lot of solidification of their center depth, and Celebrini certainly brings a lot of that. Celebrini is just a really well-rounded player in a way that doesn't really freak me out. Sometimes I do get a little bit hesitant around players that are good at a lot of things, but not necessarily elite in others, but Celebrini is pretty much an 8 or an 8.5 across the board at everything, and that is very rare at this age. He's got skill, he can shoot, he's a smart playmaker, he has really good NHL-level instincts around the ice, he chips in defensively in ways that really should project well for him. He just seems to have a great grasp of the game as it is, and I feel like any skill development or skating development from here is only going to make him better and better and better, and I think that that's a great piece to work with moving forward. At 11, the San Jose Sharks before the draft traded up a few slots and ended up with Sam Dickinson at 11. Now, I had Dickinson a little bit later than this, but I think in this range it makes a lot of sense. I have my doubts about Dickinson with regards to his hockey sense and overall consistency and defensive imposition ability. There are just a lot of holes in his game that I think need to be developed in order to become what he could be, but boy, when he gets the puck below the goal line, drops his shoulder, and just starts barreling up the ice, not a whole lot of defensemen can get from point A to point B like he does. He's a tremendous offensive zone threat around the perimeter from time to time, and I think he's a really nice raw project to work with over the next little while. There were players here that I might have pushed for a little bit harder, but Sam Dickinson probably wouldn't have lasted much further than this, and the tools with which you're starting with that you can build around are really high end, and I think there might be a really interesting middle pair-ish defenseman here for San Jose. At 33rd overall, the San Jose Sharks drafted probably the only player that both I and maybe some NHL insider people felt should have been picked in the first round without any question in Igor Chernyshov. Now, Chernyshov is a player who is a really well-rounded player himself. He brings size, a good level of skill to the game. I think his IQ level in the game is really high at both ends of the ice. I think he really refined his defensive abilities at the KHL level over the course of this season and just seems to be reading play really well, doing what needs to be done in order to get the puck up the ice and generate offense. You might look at his production and maybe bring up a few question marks about how much offense there is in his game, and there might be some level of truth to that, but I think it all really just comes down to his ability to create separation through his speed or through power or some combination of the two at higher levels more often. He did earn himself good scoring chances in almost every game I saw. The puck just didn't go in for him, and there were some real highlight reel moments for Chernyshov here. At 33, I don't think there were that many better picks at this range that I think you could easily project into NHL roles, and I think he should be a pretty good third-line offensive winger that has some good 200-foot skill. A few picks later, at 53rd overall, the San Jose Sharks took Leo Salin-Valenius, and this is a round where I feel like it should have been considered to draft him. I think there are some interesting tools here, and in a little bit of a weird way, it's a bit of an echo of Sam Dickinson. He's a decent skater, he can get up and down the ice pretty well, there are some refinements with his skating that need some work, and the defensive imposition is good in terms of intent, but the results aren't always great, and he does have some offensive tools to work with regards to putting pucks on net, a little bit of skill in the offensive zone with some good vision with his passing. I didn't have Celine Valenius ranked, but I do see the appeal of a player like this, and with a few years in Sweden, I think he could be an interesting player down the lineup, or at least a potentially good prospect for NHL time. At 82nd overall, the San Jose Sharks drafted Carson Wetch, who I have a soft spot for. I've really enjoyed watching Carson Wetch over the course of this season. Do I think there's a tremendous amount of NHL upside to him? Well, No, but I do think there's a decent chance that he plays games. He's an intense player at both ends of the ice. He goes to the net when he really needs to, on and off the puck. He's physical. He plays hard in his own end. He's a pretty decent puck distributor as well. There just wasn't a whole lot of really high-end tools that give me a lot of confidence in projecting him offensively into the NHL, but I do think there's enough there that as a fourth-line guy maybe one day that can just go out there and crash and bang, there could be something here with Wetch, and I thought at 82nd overall, this is around where he probably should have gone. At 116th, they drafted a goaltender out of Switzerland in Christian Kirsch. Now, I liked what I saw of Kirsch at the under-18s this year, but I honestly didn't get to see a tremendous amount of him this season, so I don't really know what to say. I do know that some goalie people I do trust do like Christian Kirsch, and if you want a goalie with your 6th pick in the draft, I guess you just go for whoever you like and we'll see what happens. You can stash him away in Europe for a while. I did like what I saw, so we'll see where it goes from here, but I don't have a whole lot to say about Kirsch. And then at 131st, the San Jose Sharks drafted Colton Roberts, and I'll be honest, I wasn't a huge fan of Colton Roberts this year, but he's big and he can play heavy from time to time. I just didn't really see a whole lot of high-end tools where I'm going, I really need to draft this guy as high as some other people had him. I think this is the range where, based on what I heard from some WHL people, where he probably should have gone, and that kind of makes sense to me, and at this range, if you get anything out of a player, then great. But for me, Colton Roberts wasn't really standing out to me in a lot of ways, but some people seem to really like him, and who knows, if he becomes a depth-heavy defenseman for the San Jose Sharks one day, good. This has been a great pick. At 143, they drafted Nate Miskey, and I've actually kind of liked Miskey this season. I don't think there's a tremendous amount of high-end potential with this, as if he's some sort of re-entry steal later in the draft, but he does bring some high-end offensive instincts in the offensive zone. He can put the puck on net with a decent amount of power, and there are some moments with moving the puck in a pretty projectable and intelligent way, even if it isn't at the highest pace or highest speed you've ever seen. I do think amongst re-entries out of the Canadian Hockey League this year, Miskey was one where I would be more than happy to put my name behind later in the draft, and at 143rd overall, I think it makes a ton of sense. At 194th overall, the San Jose Sharks drafted a goaltender out of the St. Petersburg system in Russia. Yaroslav Korostelov is a player that I honestly didn't really see a whole lot of this year. He didn't play a tremendous amount of games. He was undrafted last year, and I mean, look, it's 194th overall, and this is kind of where you may be able to find some decent value with goaltending. If they like him, they like him. I haven't seen a tremendous amount of him, and what I saw since the draft of him in my brief time seeing him, he seems fine. I mean, yeah, at this point, you're really splitting hairs about players you rather want here, and a goalie is a goalie. It's their second of the draft. They had a ton of picks, and clearly they like him, and we'll see what happens. So the San Jose Sharks find themselves in a 1C for me. I think they've had one of the best drafts in the entire league. I mean, you can't go wrong with Macklin Celebrini. I think he'll be a very, very good NHL player. I think Sam Dickinson may not be there right now, but the potential is really high in his game. Chernyshov at 33 to me could look really, really great in a few years. I'm not a huge fan of Celine Valenius and Colton Roberts, but these guys might be down your lineup options with some size and some physicality to them. Carson Wetch, I think, has potential to maybe be an energy player in the National Hockey League. They seem to have drafted two goaltenders that people seem to dig. And Nate Miskey, I think, was one of the better re-entry players out of the Canadian Hockey League this year. So all in all, I think they did really, really well. I think my specific strategy might have gone a little bit of a different direction past those first 3 picks or so, but I can't really be that upset. I think they've come away with a lot of really interesting talent that I think should form a good backbone of this team for the next little while. So that's it for the San Jose Sharks. If you really liked it, you can check the description for our Fanatics affiliate code, where anything you buy in the store from that link will give us a small kickback on anything you purchase. Or you could go to Scouching.ca and get a subscription where you'll get access to a Discord server and plenty of data for drafted and undrafted prospects, as well as plenty of other stuff you can check out at Scouching.ca. So from the San Jose Sharks, tomorrow's report will be on the Montreal Canadiens. So strap in, that's going to be a fun one.